We carry a quiet, unspoken certainty about who we are. When you wake up, you assume your personality and self-image, that continuous inner voice, provide the solid, permanent bedrock of your existence. We view our biological drives differently. Sudden hungers or flashes of panic feel like passing weather, temporary disruptions that flare up and fade away, eventually leaving your normal self back in control. Psychoanalysis flips this hierarchy on its head. The identity you call I functions as a fragile, contingent illusion. It is a structure pieced together over time, entirely dependent on external circumstances to maintain its shape. Meanwhile, those chaotic, unconscious urges represent the only absolute, permanent fixtures of your being. They are the constants that remain when everything else shifts. To find out who is actually running the mind, we have to look past the myth of the stable self and examine the biological engine grinding away underneath it. Deep within the architecture of the brain lies a layer completely severed from the external world. It doesn't recognize dates, social status, or language. Sigmund Freud identified this unorganized primal core as the id. It serves as the original engine for our vital drives. Modern neuroscience tracks these drives to physical circuitry. Neuropsychoanalyst Mark Solms describes them as homeostatic affects, biological alarms that demand the body regulate survival needs, like hunger, thirst, or safety. The id lacks a concept of the future. It operates in a state of immediate urgency, reacting to a rigid binary, pleasure and unpleasure. When a biological need arises, the system demands instant discharge. This engine is incontingent. It does not rely on outside validation or personal history to function. It is a biological fact, running at full capacity from the moment of birth. However, this absolute demand for satisfaction creates a crisis. An organism that acts blindly on every impulse, ignoring the physical dangers of the outside world, cannot survive for long. Survival requires a diplomat, a system to negotiate between the screaming demands of the id and an unforgiving external reality. Jacques Lacan argued that this diplomat, the ego, is born during a specific developmental moment, the mirror stage. Initially, an infant experiences its body as a fragmented, uncoordinated mess, lacking a cohesive physical self. This chaos is eventually locked into a cohesive reflection in a mirror. The infant identifies with this unified external image to escape its fragmentation. This means the ego is imported from the outside. It is a protective shell assembled from images, language, and the expectations of others. Because its origin is external, the ego remains entirely contingent. It relies on its environment to stay intact, making your sense of self a necessary but fabricated fiction. The ego spends every waking hour performing as a mediate system, buffering the impact between internal biology and external pressure. It uses thought, memory, and attention to evaluate the environment, forcing the id's immediate demands to wait until a safe moment for satisfaction arrives. This relationship is defined by extreme tension. The ego is the rider desperately pulling the reins, struggling to direct the blind, equine passions of the id through a dangerous landscape. Your identity is an exhausting, real-time performance. It is the act of navigating absolute biological drives through a world that rarely allows for their immediate release. If your biological drives are blind machinery and your identity is a fabricated mask, the search for a true self leads somewhere unexpected. Slavoj Žižek suggests that the subject cannot be found in any curated self-image or behavioral pattern. The subject is actually a void. As seen here, it is the empty eye of the storm around which all mental events and drives swirl. We suffer when we mistake this mask for something solid, forcing a transitory ego to behave like a permanent truth. Treating a fragile negotiation with reality as an immutable fact creates an internal friction that eventually leads to collapse. Self-awareness involves recognizing the mask for what it is, rather than trying to harden it into an impenetrable fortress. It means acknowledging the I as a necessary, hard-working fiction that allows you to function within a society the id cannot comprehend. Life is the friction of this balancing act, the perpetual tension between the absolute truth of our biology and the contingent chaos of the world.